We are in Barbados, an island that absolutely loves its cricket. We're in an area called Christchurch, which is far away from the Kensington Oval where all the action of the T20 World Cup is. But why is it that we made a trip an hour away from the ground? Because if you're a cricket fan, you have to come and visit this place. This is a cemetery in Christchurch, as I mentioned, because this is also the burial ground or the burial place of the great Malcolm Marshall. And as I said, if you followed cricket for a considerable amount of time, you would understand the importance of Malcolm Marshall in the sport that we all love. Considered by many as the greatest fast bowler to have ever played the sport. If you take a look at his numbers, it may not be like that because, as you know, now in terms of wicket taken by fast bowlers, we've reached the 700 mark. You know, there are bowlers, spin bowlers, albeit, that have taken 800 wickets. But at one point, 370 odd wickets that Malcolm Marshall had taken was the benchmark. It was the highest by any bowler. And even though he finished with 300 odd wickets, why is he still considered the greatest? He's considered the greatest because he put fear in the hearts of the batters. Let me give you a few examples for those of you who've picked up cricket very late, just to understand what kind of a fast bowler he was. You know, Brian Lara, for the very first time when he faced up against Malcolm Marshall, the great Brian Lara said he was nervous, that his heart was pumping when he was facing Malcolm Marshall, and he was glad that he got out facing Malcolm Marshall very early because he didn't want to face him. You've heard of the rivalry between Dilip Vengsarkar and Malcolm Marshall. Let me give you an idea because the 1983 film is very popular. All of you would have seen it. Malcolm Marshall is there. Mali Marshall, the son, is playing Malcolm Marshall in that film. And as you know, in the 1983 World Cup, he gave Dilip Vengsarkar a bloodied nose. That's how quick he was. And he was known for not only his pace, but his temper as well. Just to give you an idea, where did that rivalry between Dilip Vengsarkar and Malcolm Marshall start? Well, it started way back in 1978. That was the first time that Malcolm Marshall made his debut, and that debut was in Bangalore. And on his debut, on Malcolm Marshall's debut, you had Dilip Vengsarkar fielding at short leg, and he would kept appealing to the umpire for an out. He kept appealing, and eventually the umpire under pressure gave Malcolm Marshall out. And Malcolm Marshall was upset because he considered that he was not out, and he walked off the field in Bangalore on his test debut crying. And he thought the biggest villain behind that decision on his debut was Dilip Vengsarkar. Since then, he held a grudge against Dilip Vengsarkar. That grudge added on when the Indian team toured the West Indies right before the World Cup in '82 in a test match in Antigua. Malcolm Marshall was bowling quick. He would come round the wicket and bowl bouncers. And Dilip Vengsarkar once again complained to the umpire that Malcolm Marshall was bowling continuous no ball. So Malcolm Marshall eventually would say that he loved playing cricket. He regarded Dilip Vengsarkar as a great batsman, but he held a grudge against him because of the manner in which he used to play his cricket, and which is why he gave him a bloodied nose, Dilip Vengsarkar, in the 1983 World Cup. What did that result in? That resulted in Dilip Vengsarkar not being able to play the semi-finals and the games after. In fact, in that final, which is very popular in '83, Malcolm Marshall bowled a bouncer even to Balwinder Singh Sandhu. And there is a very famous incident that Malcolm Marshall bowls a bouncer to Balwinder Sandhu, and Dickie Bird was the umpire. He called Malcolm Marshall and said, listen, behave yourself. He's a tail ender. If you want to bowl a bouncer, bowl at the batters. Don't bowl bouncers at tail enders. And so that was a bit of an exchange between Dickie Bird and Malcolm Marshall. I'm telling you these stories just to put into perspective the legacy of Malcolm Marshall. I spoke to Navjot Singh Sidhu as to the toughest bowler he ever faced, and he had faced, Ian Bishop, Curtly Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, many bowlers, and he picked Malcolm Marshall as the toughest bowler he's faced. And to give you an idea why he was tough, because Sidhu said that he would firstly be very quick, 5'11". Your remaining West Indian bowlers, were 6'2", 6'3". Joel Garner was very tall, 6'6", if I'm not mistaken, or even taller. Malcolm Marshall was 5'11", but it was his quick run up to the crease, and then his quick delivery, the shoulder that he would use, would make him very quick. So Sidhu told me that one, Malcolm Marshall was very quick. Secondly, with the same action, he could pitch the ball and one ball would come in, one ball would go out. At that pace, to negotiate a ball coming in or going out, which you have no idea about, was absolutely impossible to play. which is why you had a situation where batters would fear Malcolm Marshall. You had an English opener, Andy Lloyd, if I'm not mistaken, was his name, and in his first test match against West Indies, got hit on the head from a Malcolm Marshall ball. He was 10 not out, spent 10 days in hospital, never played cricket again. His cricket career was over because of a Malcolm Marshall bouncer. So that's the kind of bowler that he was. He would instill fear in the heart of the batters, and that's why he's regarded as probably the greatest of all time. If you were to make an all-time Test 11, maybe a lot of people, they're not going to look at the total number of wickets, but might put Malcolm Marshall there. This is his final resting place. You can see that ball that is placed right there. May have been a ball, because it's a 4-piece ball, may have been a ball that he may have used. He died very early. During the 1999 World Cup, he was the coach of the West Indies. He got to know he had colon cancer and passed away a few months after that at a young age of 41. He was only 41 when he passed away. He had just begun coaching and weighed only 25 kilos. That's how much weight he had lost by the time he died. I hope you enjoyed this feature that we brought to you from Barbados. Here's our salute to the GOAT, that is Malcolm Marshall.